Welcome to the Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast. The show covering all things health, wellness, culture, kitchen, cooking, and more. The show for all of us who aren't old. We're better. Each week, we'll interview superstars, experts, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things, all related to this wonderful experience of getting better, not just older. Now here's your host, the award-winning Paul Vogelzang.
Thank you. I'm Paul Vogelzang, and welcome to the Good Housekeeping Magazine Good, Better, Best interview series. Today we are all about coffee, the best coffee makers for your money, and smart tips for a better brew with Eva Bleyer. What if I told you the most important part of your morning routine might be letting you down? That familiar hum, that first aroma drifting through the kitchen, that first sip you've counted on for years. Coffee isn't just a drink, it's a ritual. It's memory, it's comfort. And for many of us in the Not Old Better Show audience, it is a daily reset button. But here's the question. Is your coffee maker helping your brew or quietly hurting it? Today on the Not Old Better Show Good, Better, Best interview series, we're talking all about coffee, and not in a trendy, kind of over-the-top way. We're getting practical, smart, evidence-based, as a matter of fact. Because whether you're living solo, downsizing your kitchen, or simply wanting a better cup without spending a fortune, you deserve coffee that works for you. Our guest is Eva Bleyer, reviews analyst in the kitchen and cooking lab at the Good Housekeeping Institute. Eva Bleyer has tested hundreds of machines, measuring temperature, consistency, flavor extraction, and today she's sharing what truly makes a difference and what's just marketing. We'll cover the machines worth your money, how often you should really be cleaning yours, why grind size changes everything, and what cold brew actually does differently. All of this great stuff. Plus, we will be exploring some new flavor combinations that are showing up in specialty drinks and how to try them at home without turning your cup into a sugar bomb. If you think coffee makers are basically the same, stay with us. You may never look at your morning cup of coffee the same way again. I'm Paul Vogelzang. Thanks for joining us on the Good, Better, Best interview series. Let's welcome Eva Bleyer. Eva Bleyer, it is so great to talk with you. I'm excited to get into this. You, of course, are reviews analyst with Kitchen and Cooking Lab at the Good Housekeeping Institute. That sounds super exciting. I always enjoy knowing more about the Good Housekeeping Institute. I'm looking forward to that today. So welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good to talk to you. Yeah, so nice to talk to you too. Well, we're gonna talk a little bit about coffee today. I know your area of expertise is appliances, coffee machines, those kinds of things, and we're just going to get into all of that. And so I thought I'd start with kind of a broad topic that I actually have heard from my audience. In anticipation of our conversation today, I reached out to everybody and I heard back, and people are curious about coffee makers. Are they hurting the brew of the coffee? Is it really something that we need to kind of pay attention to in terms of kind of how it might impact the flavor?
So your coffee maker is not going to ruin your brew if it's in good shape. If you've had it, usually most coffee makers last about 5 to 10 years, depending on the model, especially if it's been maintained regularly, whether it's also been descaled and deep cleaned. Usually we recommend that like every 1 to 3 months, but you can choose a high-end machine or a low-end, a more affordable machine, and you can get probably the same quality of brew depending on if you're maintaining it and if it's from a brand that rigorously tests their machines. There's a lot of machines that we test, whether it's a high-end model from Breville or Fellow, but also a more affordable model from Mr. Coffee or Braun that provides very much high-quality brew as long as you maintain the machine. And I would only say that it would be ruining your brew if it's too old. Often, if the machine is too old, it might not be heating to the right temperature that you need for a good extraction, or it could be burning if you smell Some coffee makers, when they get too old, you might smell some burning or you might see some degrading in your brew basket. But if it's smelling good, if you're taking care of it, maintaining it, um, if you're using fresh filters, if you're cleaning it regularly, then I don't see any problem of why it should be ruining your brew. It should only be enhancing your brew.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you. I appreciate hearing the age kind of subject that you brought out, and then also be careful about the cord. The other thing we sometimes hear about when we think about, kind of cleaning the coffee maker is this term scales. Can you describe that? What are scales, and how do we get rid of those?
Yeah, so that's mainly just like mineral buildup. Um, with your coffee machine or even and also even espresso machine, especially if it's like a mechanical, if it's a machine that has like a cord, like if it's a different type of machine like a Chemex pour over or like a French press or a mocha pot, you don't need to worry as much about doing a thorough deep clean or descale. You still want to clean it out regularly, but often mineral buildup inside of a machine will um, start to build up in your machine. Coffee might not run as smoothly as it once did. While a deep clean with different like cleaning tablets that the coffee machine company recommends, that will help remove like oil and coffee residue. But with the descale, it really affects the mineral buildup. And if you have hard water in your home, that especially will affect your machine more. So you would want to descale it once a month. But if your water is softer, then you can go as much as like 3 months if you haven't noticed any like change in your coffee. But it's definitely something to look out for. And when it comes to descaling, you want to do what your coffee machine recommends, but quite often they recommend doing a diluted vinegar, white distilled vinegar, or sometimes different companies have their own descaling liquid and instructions on how to use that to descale the machine.
Great. Thank you so much. Cleaning aside, can you taste the difference? I mean, I'm sure there's a difference in taste and quality on the upper end machines, but how about, say, for example, Mr. Coffee versus one of the, kind of say a lower end machine versus an upper end machine? Can you taste that difference?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. In our lab, we've tested hundreds of machines over the last even like decade alone. And when we're testing coffee machines, we're often testing quite a few at the same time. And we'll do taste tests with many members of our team to really get their opinions on the coffee and how it tastes. And we score it based on a bunch of different criteria, whether it's like aroma or the body of the coffee, if there's like any lingering like consistency differences, the temperature of it. A lot of things are all evaluated just from a taste criteria. And we often do it blind. So there's one person that is brewing the coffee, and then various people, usually around like 3 or 4 people that are trained in tasting coffee, will taste the coffee blind. And it's quite interesting to see the results. And yes, some higher end coffee makers like Breville have produced delicious coffee. But one of our best value Braun at a price point that's almost 3 times less than the Breville produce a very delicious cup of coffee that many of our team members recommend to many people. So, you know, um, price kind of, you know, sometimes it matters, but really not often. Yeah, there's a lot of great companies at all different price points that make great coffee makers.
In terms of taste, what's the smartest way to store coffee beans and then the kind of that byproduct, the coffee grounds even?
Yes. So I always recommend storing whole beans. If you need to have ground coffee, um, that is fine, but I would do in small quantities. So if you're going to your local coffee shop or store, I wouldn't buy a huge, like 5 pound bag and have it ground. I would definitely try and get the smallest amount that you can and have it ground and then store it because coffee is all about, well, there are three things that start to degrade coffee, and it's air, light, and time. And um, ground coffee will age very quickly. Um, and you want to have, whether it's ground or whole beans, you want to have it in a good storage method. Um, I love two different coffee canisters, one from Breville and one from Fellow. They both are able to take a lot of the air out of the coffee canister so that the coffee beans aren't surrounded or the coffee grounds aren't surrounded by air, which often degrades coffee quicker. Um, but there's a lot of other more affordable coffee canisters on the market. Even Amazon has quite a few different ones where you can pump out the air. But no matter what, you do want a container that is opaque so you can't see inside of it. If it's a clear glass, that will also degrade your ground coffee or whole beans faster. Um, you want it to be airtight so that more air isn't entering. But also, if it's able to take out the air, that's also really great. And you also don't want it to be too large because if like you want it to be about the same size as the amount of coffee that you're putting inside. Because if you aren't able to take the air out, then there's just a lot of air that's circulating your beans. And that's not as helpful to making it last a longer amount of time. But if you don't have any of those containers, if you get coffee from a lot of different roasters come with a bag that has a airtight seal. And if you just keep them in there, it's going to be a lot better than putting it into like a mason jar and putting it on your counter. Like those bags are specifically designed for storing your coffee for a certain amount of time. And I'd recommend that if you don't have the correct coffee storage.
And most of the mason jars that I see are clear
Yes.
rather than opaque and that the light can do damage to it.
Yeah.
So if we're thinking about quantity of coffee to purchase and then store, the next thing that kind of comes to mind to me is, because many in our audience are living alone, maybe they're a two-person household,
Yes.
and maybe just doing for themselves. Are there specific machines that are really good for people who have downsized and maybe a solo coffee, connoisseur?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I have a lot of members on my team that live alone, and they do have a large coffee maker on their countertops. And it depends if that's important to you. If you want a machine that's got a lot of different features and um, all those bells and whistles, most people do keep their coffee makers on their countertops. But if that's something that you can't really fit in your kitchen, there are certain things like a mocha pot or a pour over like Chemex or a French press. Those are great things that can just fit into your cabinet with your glasses. But also, companies like Keurig or Nespresso have capsule machines that are smaller. They have a bunch of different sizes, but they also have smaller, compact models that are great. And there's also quite a gamut of smaller coffee machines as well. Not every brand makes a more compact model, so it kind of depends on what you're looking for. We haven't tested a ton of really small machines to see the difference in them, but if you're someone that's living alone and you want something compact, I highly just recommend getting like a French press or something like that. That's what I always used when I lived alone and didn't take up much space at all.
Hey, before you top off that cup or step away for just a moment, hold on. If you're just joining us, we've been talking with Eva Bleyer from the Good Housekeeping Institute about whether your coffee maker is truly delivering or quietly ruining your brew. And what Eva has revealed so far might already have you eyeing that machine on your counter a little differently. But we are not done. Coming up, Eva Bleyer answers the question that divides coffee drinkers everywhere. Can you actually taste the difference between machines? Or is it just all in your head? And wait until you hear what lab testing proves about temperature and flavor extraction. Pretty cool stuff. We'll also be breaking down the real difference between cold brew, iced coffee, and flash chill, because one of them could be far easier to make than you think. And if your coffee has ever tasted weak one day and bitter the next, the culprit might not be your beans. It might be your grind size. Eva explains why that small detail changes everything. Plus, trending flavor combinations that are showing up in specialty drinks, combinations you can try at home without fancy equipment, so don't go anywhere. The next few minutes could completely change the way you brew that morning coffee, so stay tuned. If you're like me, you've trusted Good Housekeeping for years. The recipes, the reviews, the real-life advice that makes your home smarter, healthier, and, well, happier. But now Good Housekeeping has taken it to the next level with GH Plus, a powerful membership designed just for people who love trusted information and want more of it faster. With GH Plus, you'll get unlimited digital access to every article, recipe, and lab-tested product review on goodhousekeeping.com. You'll also receive the iconic Good Housekeeping magazine delivered right to your door for an entire year. You'll also get exclusive recipes straight from the legendary Good Housekeeping Test Kitchen, member-only newsletters, discounts, and direct access to the experts at the Good Housekeeping Institute. This is more than a subscription. It's your invitation to join a trusted community that values quality, curiosity, and everyday excellence. Head to goodhousekeeping.com/GH Plus and sign up today. Your kitchen, your home, and your peace of mind will thank you. We'll have links to all of this in our show notes today, so please check it out. That's goodhousekeeping.com/GH Plus. Eva Bleyer is our guest today. Eva is the reviews analyst in the kitchen and cooking lab at the Good Housekeeping Institute. We're talking all things coffee today. We're getting some budget-conscious advice, certainly from Eva. Coffee as a kind of daily ritual. And talking a little bit about some of the machines and the best use. We're going to have links so that our audience can find out more information about Eva and her work. Eva, I know your work is always really interesting to read, and so our audience will be able to find direct contact for all of your stuff too. So let's talk about kind of the trends of coffee flavors, because they're just abundant right now. And I wonder if you talk a little bit about this idea of specialty drinks, because that's kind of a new term to me. It may be to our audience, but maybe some of the trending kind of coffee flavor combinations that are going on out there. I think everybody would love to hear that.
Yeah, it's actually a very exciting time for coffee, I feel. I mean, I'm a trained chef and I love coffee, and I find that it's kind of like mixing new flavor profiles with coffee that I've never experienced, and it's quite fun. I find that there's a lot of like global influences, whether it's adding like cardamom or pistachio, or I've had many like miso maple, um,
Hmm.
or
Okay, fascinating. That's
black
an interesting comment.
sesame. A lot of different
Uh-huh,
like flavor combinations within like coffee syrups that are
uh-huh.
added to it, whether it's like hot coffee, cold foams. Um, but also, I'm seeing a lot of coffee in cocktails more than I've ever seen before, whether it's a espresso martini or different mocktails or variations, um, with a lot of different like flavor profiles. Um, it's something that like I feel like coffee syrups have been added to coffee for maybe like the last couple of decades, but they were usually just like vanilla or hazelnut. But now there's a lot more creativity, and it's less about making your coffee sweet and more about like adding new flavors profiles to your coffee, which is quite exciting and kind of like a flavor journey when you're at the coffee shop.
Yeah,
Yes.
miso. That must be a really interesting
Yeah, it's
one.
really tasty. Like, it'll add a little like
Yeah,
umami, salty, but then also a little sweet.
sure.
It's really good. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Okay, so tell us about cold
Mhm.
brew. That, of course, this a term that I've heard is iced coffee, but the term that I found in my research in anticipation of our
Mhm.
conversation, Eva, is this idea of flash
Mhm.
chill. What's the difference between those?
So, cold brew is made in a specific method. You use coarsely ground coffee and it's brewed at a cold temperature, whether it's just room temp on your countertop or in a fridge. And it takes about 24 hours. You just submerge your ground coffee in water. And then the coffee that you're left with is a cold brew. And it's tends to be smoother, compared to, like, a traditional iced coffee. And a traditional iced coffee is usually hot coffee that's cooled down and then served over ice, whether you brewed it originally just to have hot coffee and then had some remaining and you brewed it over ice, or with the intent of it being iced coffee. But flash chilling is when you take hot coffee and you immediately chill it. They have some new gadgets for that as well. There's metal balls that for when you're brewing espresso, you can brew it over a metal ball that you keep in the freezer, and then you can brew your espresso on top, and it will quickly chill down your espresso. But they also have different like trays as well, that you would keep in the freezer and then put your hot coffee on top of, and then it would chill it. Um, but I feel like that's still not as widely known as, like iced coffee was very widely known, and then cold brew came to the market, and that's been very popular for last couple of years for sure.
Yeah, it's just a very evolving area. Fascinating. As a chef, you must be really excited to kind of stay abreast of all of this because it really is something that I think is an interesting development. So, is there a perfect grind size? Does that matter?
It matters depending on how you're enjoying your coffee. Um, so if you're having cold brew or if you're gonna make cold brew, you need a very like the most coarsest grind of coffee. But if you're having espresso, you want it to be a very fine grind of coffee. But if you're drinking drip, it needs to be kind of in the middle. And sometimes that can be a little tricky to get that like perfect grind. So you do need a coffee grinder that will hopefully tell you what each grind is um, for. Sometimes they'll come with different manuals, or sometimes on the machine it will say, like, this grind is specifically for drip coffee or what have you. Um, but there's different nuances. And sometimes you're not going to find the right grind right off the bat. Um, so there's a little trial and error uh, um, to kind of determine if that grind is right for the style of coffee that you want. Because sometimes it can be over extracted, sometimes it can be under extracted. And if you taste it and you don't quite love it, um, then you might need to either grind it a little finer or a little coarser, and then see how it tastes.
So, final question here, Eva Bleyer. There are an awful lot of coffee influencers. There's an awful lot of social media devoted to coffee. But the Good Housekeeping Institute really persists your role there really to give us kind of this sense as to, real world advice that has some lab testing behind it. And I love the fact that the Institute does that. What would you say to our audience who really kind of wonders who they should be relying on today in light of all of the sheer avalanche of coffee, social media that's out there. It just seems like TikTok. Every day I see a TikTok video of some kind devoted to a coffee kind of component and concoction.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I mean,
Yeah.
some of the content on TikTok is really great and really informative. But when it
Uh-huh.
comes to our lab, we have been testing appliances for decades and coffee makers for decades. And we have so much data and insight on coffee makers and how they've evolved. When it comes to each coffee maker that we recommend, we've already tested it for consistency, volume, time, temperature. We've tasted it among many members of our team. And our whole team makes up of people with different coffee preferences, even those who like decaf, some who like dark roast, some like medium. And we all come together with our own like taste profiles, but also the knowledge and the facts and the data backed to kind of, steer you in the right direction. Our lab is a super busy place. We have many members of our team coming in, engineers, um, different scientists, chemists coming in just for a cup of coffee. But we get all kinds of opinions all the time on all the coffee and all the coffee makers. And we have a lot of insight. And it's a really fun place. And, um, we try and share as much information as we can with our readers to help them make an informed decision. And it's not always about like, this is the best machine, you need to get it, but this is the best machine for you. Whether you are downsizing or you're on a budget or you want the best machine with the best features, then this is the right one. But we hope that we're able to guide our readers depending on what they're looking for. And, we also respect that people enjoy coffee in so many different ways, and there's so many different ways to have it.
Well, Eva Bleyer, so great to talk to you. Of course, the reviews analyst in the kitchen and cooking lab at the Good Housekeeping Institute. This has been fun talking to you. I hope you'll come back, and this has just been so enjoyable. I know our audience is always very curious about this subject, and it seems to be a subject that is changing quite a bit. So please, with your chef hat on, please come back and talk to us.
Awesome. It was great being here.
Well, if there's one thing you've learned today, it's this: great coffee isn't just accidental. Thanks for joining us today on the Good Housekeeping Magazine Good, Better, Best interview series. Today we have been all about coffee, the best coffee makers for your money, smart tips for a better brew, all with Eva Bleyer. It's not about flashy machines or complicated routines. It's about temperature, grind, freshness, and knowing what truly matters. Thanks to Eva Bleyer for joining us today from the Good Housekeeping Institute. We know that the machine on your counter, the way you store your beans, even how often you clean your brewer, thanks to Eva, all of it shapes that first sip of the day. Maybe that's the bigger takeaway. At this stage in life, the small daily rituals matter more than ever. The quiet moments, the familiar comforts, the chance to start the day with something done well. A better cup of coffee isn't just about taste, it's about intention. If today's conversation has you reconsidering your brew, your grind, or even your afternoon cup, well, we've done our job. You can listen to this episode again and explore our full library of conversations at notold-better.com. Every episode is there waiting for you, including all of the Good Housekeeping episodes: wellness, culture, science, food, everything from the Good Housekeeping Institute. Stories that remind us it's never too late to learn something new. Follow us on Twitter at notoldbetter and Instagram at notoldbetter for updates, behind-the-scenes content, cool videos of all of our productions. This has been a production of NOBS Studios. I'm Paul Vogelsang. Thanks for spending your time with me today. Join me again next time. Until then, may your coffee be strong, your mornings calm, curiosity wide awake. Be well. Let's talk about better. The Not Old Better Show on radio and podcast. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next